Marshfield Community Television is happy to bring you the RAM Report. My name is David Snow. We are having a series of interviews with people in and around Marshfield High School athletics. We are fortunate today to have with us the keeper of the keys, the king of the kingdom, I guess. Bill Battis is here. He's the athletic director here at Marshfield High. And Bill, thank you for joining us today.
David, thank you very much for having me. And I've said this so many times before. Just anyone who will listen, I can't thank you and the staff at MCTV who've just done an amazing job. And you know, unfortunately, the last couple of years have been so COVID related, but from you guys covering sub-varsity games, you know, when we're not allowed to have fans in, or we're only allowed to have a limited amount of fans in, you have been able to bring to so many people, not in our own community, but in other communities here in the South Shore against teams that we've played, you know, their sons and daughters and, you know, grandchildren right into their living room. So I can't say enough about what you guys have done for us. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Bill. We could wrap it up right there.
Yeah, we really could. But it needed to be said right away because it's been great.
It's much appreciated, and you give us a ton of support, so we appreciate it right back. So, Bill, if you could just sort of walk us through your path to becoming athletic director. I know it's been circuitous, and you are where you are today, and if you can tell us how you got there.
Sure. You know, I've been blessed to be here at Marshfield High School for 29 years. This is my 29th year in the district. Started off as a teacher, which I absolutely, loved. Was fortunate enough to become the social studies department head for 8 years, and then I was also an assistant principal here at the high school for 4 years. In the last 3 years, I've been the athletic director. It's certainly, I've worked for great athletic directors because I've coached from freshman football to JV hockey to freshman baseball and varsity baseball. I've worked for a lot of different athletic directors here at Marshfield High School, and all have been great. I've been fortunate to learn a lot from them, from those gentlemen in the past. And so it was something that really always interested me. And it's ironic that, I was serving as an assistant principal at the time. This was, 4 years ago. Scott Madden, who was the athletic director before me, who's now one of the assistant principals at the middle school, took that position. I really didn't think even much about, going into that spot. A couple coaches had contacted me and asked me if I was interested, and I said, it'd be something I'd be very interested in. But I didn't know if my current role as an assistant principal, I didn't know if I'd be able to make the transition. But administration with Mr. Granatino and Principal Kutha were great, and they said if I was interested that I should pursue it. And so 3 years later, I'm sitting here, and very, very fortunate to be responsible for our athletic teams and coaches here at Marshfield High School. They're a great group. As you know, you've done a great job.
100%. The coaches are phenomenal
to
a person, and it's a credit to you and your staff. There's so many places I want to go with you on this. We talked briefly before. You said there were 21 sports, correct? Varsity sports.
Varsity sports, correct. And then, combined with our sub-varsities, we have over 57 teams. At most levels, we're proud of the support that we have from our student body here. We have a lot of sub-varsity, both JV and freshman programs. When you look around now, there's not as many freshman programs as you once saw, which is too bad, because any coach would tell you that really is the foundation of their program, from the ground up. And we've been able to maintain our numbers in the athletic field. And even though our numbers here, population-wise, in the high school have gone down in the last couple of years, when I first started off as the athletic director, we were up over 1,300, and now roughly we're around 1,234. Might not seem like a big difference, but when you drop in 70 to 80 students, that could be some teams. But thankfully, it hasn't impacted us. Then we've been able to keep our sub-varsity at a strong level, and and again, it's not just hanging on by a thread with 9 players on the freshman basketball team. It's it's a healthy 15 players that builds a foundation, and that's true with other sports as well too.
So that's a lot of coaches along the way.
It is,
and you talked about responsibility when you were talking about your job. So I would think one of the heavier responsibilities that gets entrusted to you is hiring coaches.
Right.
And as a coach yourself, what do you think are the attributes that make a good coach, and does that vary from freshman to JV to varsity. You're looking for different things.
Right. I think you do look for different things at the different levels, certainly, but I think at the heart and at the heart of everything that we look for, whether it's a freshman field hockey coach or a varsity basketball coach, I think at the heart of it, they've got to be student-based first. I mean, everyone who plays for us is a student athlete. This isn't a club team. This isn't an AAU travel team. This is, Marshfield High School. And, you're a student first and an athlete second. And they really go hand in hand. And so we really want somebody, if it's the varsity coach, we want somebody who's really going to, he or she's really going to build the program. And from the ground up, from the freshman level on, get involved in the youth programs and kind of work their way through. As a freshman coach, you might have somebody that he or she might be a new teacher, but has played at the highest level in college and is looking to get into the coaching ranks. And it's a great place for them to obviously fill out their first years as a teacher and as a coach in the freshman or JV programs. I would tell you that you could ask any athletic director here in Massachusetts. They would tell you that it's tough to find qualified coaching candidates. Some of that could be scheduling wise because we have a unique schedule. Obviously, Marshfield High School is out at 1:47 in the afternoon, so you could be on the practice field by 2:10 like a lot of our teams are. That may not fit into a coach's, an outside coach's schedule, work schedule or family schedule. So it's a fine line. But at the heart of it, you really want somebody who wants to work with each of these student athletes as a student athlete. You want them to be involved with that student athlete as a student, as an athlete, as a member of our community. Maybe they can do community service. But certainly, one thing that even as the Department Head of Social Studies, when I used to say to my department, I used to talk about, one thing we want all our students to learn when they leave our social studies classroom is, whether it's U.S. history or world history or psychology, we want them to be better citizens. So that extends to the athletic field as well too. When our students leave our programs, whether it's their senior year or their sophomore year, because they might have been a 3-sport athlete who really wants to concentrate on soccer or wants to concentrate on running cross country. We want to make sure that we're making them better individuals as people. So when they go off and maybe coach down the line, or they go off into college, or they go off into workforce, there's things they've learned through the athletic realm as a student athlete that they can take with them, to their next adventure. Right.
Well said. When I think about what you do, and this has been my greatest learning in observing all the sports here, and you got great facilities, you have great fans, great support.
We do.
But watching what you do, I was saying to Sean before we got started today, you're everywhere. You got a ton of responsibility. What are the parts of the job that have surprised you in terms of, the breadth of the job?
Right. It's funny because, I've been here for so long, been in the school in different roles. And, one thing for me that's always been very important is supporting my students. And so as a teacher, whether I was teaching, freshman row coaches or street law or seniors, I knew I had athletes, or I knew I had people that performed in the band or performed in our drama productions. And I think it's important as a teacher that you really want to get out and support them, not only in your classroom, but, in the athletic world or in the drama world or the band, whatever it might be. But one thing as athletic director that probably has caught me the most surprising, even after being in the building for so long, is, and you just mentioned it, is just how busy the athletic realm is. This past Tuesday is a perfect example. So we hosted, Marshfield High School was the home team for 4 different events. So we were hosting gymnastics, we were hosting girls basketball, we were hosting swim and dive meet. Oh, and we were also at the Reggie Lewis. So, I'm supposed to be at 4 places at once, which is impossible to do. So for me, just from a planning standpoint, I was able to hit 3 out of the 4. Unfortunately, I couldn't get to the Reggie Lewis because if I went there, that would have eliminated me from some of the other ones. So, really, I think, as an athletic director, you really have to balance your time, your schedule, and be, I think it's important to be as many places as you possibly can. And I know our administration here in the building feels the same way, and they've been very good about supporting our student athletes as well too. So, I think that's a big part of it. And again, I go back to the root of what I always have been, and that's a teacher first, is when your students see you outside of your classroom or outside of the hallway or outside of your sport. So maybe you're the, maybe the varsity football coach, but you're going to the, the drama production, or you're going to the varsity basketball game or the JV hockey game down in Plymouth. It's just great for those student athletes. Great for them to be able to see you in a different light, and they know that you're there watching them. I was always amazed. I'd go to a lacrosse game or a field hockey game, and I'd be watching as a teacher, a coach, or an assistant principal before I became the athletic director. And the next day, someone would stop me in the hallway and say, "Oh, Mr. Battis, thank you very much for stopping by our game last night." I didn't even think they would notice that I was there. You know what I mean? But they really do, take that to heart, and I think that's important to support, all of our students at every level.
No doubt about it. Just on a side note, how much of a pain in your job is transportation?
Well, and I don't know if it's because, again, my years as an athletic director of late have been dealing with COVID, so I don't know if COVID is something to do with it. It's a major challenge. Some of it early on when I started the job, it was a challenge because when COVID really was in its height, restrictions on the buses were, 2 to a seat or 1 every other row. So, transportation has been a major issue. I have to thank our bus company. We're very fortunate. They've worked well with us. But I've also had to, get out of our circle of comfort with our bus company and look for other venues. I was talking to an athletic director today who hired a coach bus just recently, who hired a limousine just recently. We do have a school van that we will also transport our student athletes to and from different locations because you just have to. We can't hold an event without our teams being there, and so we've got to get everyone there safely. And even weather's a challenge. As we sit here, and they're talking about potential snowstorm on the weekend. We are hosting or going to 7 different events this weekend on Saturday and Sunday. It's a transportation issue. It's a safety issue. So there's always something that is going on. Which is a challenge. So when you talk about transportation being a challenge, it really is getting certified and qualified coaches. It's a challenge. There's a lot of different challenges that I didn't, even being in this building for 20 plus years, didn't understand. Oh yeah. Couldn't anticipate. Certainly.
I'm struck all the time by it.
It really is.
It's fascinating to me. So let me ask you something along those lines. You took over a few years ago. Is there a sport you mentioned in your resume? You mentioned hockey. You mentioned football. I know you're the baseball coach here. Yeah. Is there a sport outside of your comfort zone that you've grown an appreciation for as an athletic director?
It's a great question. I think I've grown, for our student athletes here, I think I've got so much more of an appreciation for all of our student athletes now than I did even as a coach or a teacher or as an assistant principal, because I just see the time and effort they put forward day in and day out, and in season, out of season. It's just amazing. The other night I was over at a gymnastics competition. It's the third one that I've seen since their season has started, which has been great. I try to get to as much as I can. But as before I was the athletic director, I was fortunate maybe to catch one. It's 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night or a Friday night at 12 o'clock on a Sunday. So you just, the schedule is, forever fluctuating. But, again, it just, talking about one sport in gymnastics, the dedication. And it doesn't matter whether you're swimming and diving in the pool or in the football field or gymnastics or baseball diamond or hockey rink. Like, I think what impresses me most is the dedication of our student athletes. They really just, again, they're student athletes. They've got a lot of responsibilities as a student. They got a lot of responsibilities to their families. Many of them work, and here they are putting in practice hours, game hours. One of the best things that since I've been here, as far as from the athletic standpoint, when we moved to the Patriot League, our travel became just so much better. And as a coach who took that trip over the bridge many, many times to Nauset, Dennis Yarmouth, Sandwich, Falmouth, all great schools, don't get me wrong, but from a travel standpoint and our student standpoint and family standpoint, it was difficult for them. Now the farthest north we go from the league is North Quincy. The farthest south we go is Plymouth South. Marshfield's right in the middle. So I'm so appreciative that we've been accepted into the Patriot League. I know a lot of people, including Mr. Madden, Mr. Kuth, and Mr. Granatino, before I came on board, did a lot of work to get us into the Patriot League. And I think it's a great fit for our student athletes.
It's a great league across the board.
It is. Very competitive. There's great coaches, great student athletes. The ADs, have, for me, have been such a great source of support and help. we're very fortunate to be in here.
I get the feeling sometimes they maybe wish they didn't have you because of the success of the programs,
Yeah.
not because of the people.
Right. But I do think, and we talk about this as ADs and as coaches, I think it pushes everybody to be stronger and to be better, you know.
Yeah.
So it's great. And I just, you know, I was watching the girls come off the court the other night, and it was Pembroke, Marshfield, you know, girls game. You were there, of course, as usual. And, you know, just at the end of the game, seeing the girls talk because they might play on other teams together.
Amazing.
Certainly, you know, we border their town, so that's great stuff, you know. And you just didn't get that when you were going down to Nauset because, you know, the rivalry's just not there, the camaraderie, the friendship's just not there because it's something that you don't see on a normal basis.
Right.
So
it's a long trip home if you
it
lose
is.
at Nauset.
I always joke, you know, on a Wednesday night, you know, I'll never forget talking to one of my old athletic directors when I was the baseball coach. He said to me, we had a doubleheader down in Nauset one evening, and the first thing he said to me the next morning was, geez, how'd it go last night? I said, it was pretty good. I said, you know, went down, swept both of them. I said, in doubleheaders, I always like to take the first one, and then the second one, I feel like I'm playing with house money. I said, but it was interesting. We left on a Wednesday, and we came back on a Thursday. We literally got back to school at 4 minutes after midnight. And as a teacher, I knew that was just wrong. It's not fair to the kids who then the bell goes off, you know, at 7:15. They're expected to be in class and performing.
That's right.
It's just, you know, so like I said, being in the Patriot League is just such a natural, good situation for our schools.
Well, you gave me a good segue there. What can you say about the kids? Like you went here.
Yes.
You've been an athlete here. You've been a coach here. You've been what can you say about the kids, you know, from the beginning? Have they changed all that much in your mind? I mean, I've been asking the coaches that.
Right.
What's the same and what's different?
You know, it's funny because a lot of people ask me that. I've been in the community for a long time, obviously, because I'm fortunate enough to live here in Marshfield as well, too. And, you know, so a lot of my friends who now their children are out there, you know, on the fields and competing in the gyms. The biggest difference is they're younger and I'm older. But honestly, I think you know, from when I got into coaching, I've been here for 29 years. I've been coaching for 27 of the 29. I really don't think the kids have changed that much.
Yeah.
The games have changed. The athletes have changed, no question, because there's you know, the one thing that I am a little bit sad about, I don't think we see the multi-sport athlete as much as we once did. I think you see a lot of specialization more than we did at one point. Certainly when I started, you know, over 2 decades ago. But as far as like the coaching aspects and you know, the game skills, the management, all that stuff as coaches, we have to change, just like your teaching style, it has to change. But as far as like the students, I don't see much of a change, you know. I do think they're bigger, stronger, and faster. Right. But, you know, like I said, as far as like the one-on-one and the, you know, being in the dugout, you know, I can speak for myself, being in the dugout with the players or in the locker rooms or after games in the gym, you know, for me, that connection with the students, it's what it's all about. And it hasn't changed for me in 29 years. And you know, whether I have 5 more years, 1 more year, 1 more week, whatever, I don't think I'll ever feel any differently. And I know when I do leave, whenever that time comes, like that will be my biggest look back will be like how great it was to have that time with my student athletes. And then obviously, you know, just how much I probably will miss it, you know, going forward. Because again, for me, I think it kind of keeps you young too, because like their energy you can feed off of, and their enthusiasm, their desire to play and to learn. You know, that's, you know, for an educator, for a teacher, for a coach, administrator, I don't think it gets any better than that.
Yeah, it's been a treat for me to get to talk to the athletes the last couple of weeks, and their coaches, of course. But what struck me is how thoughtful the kids are in their answers. You think like you're going to get one-word answers, and just that they're naturally very comfortable. They've been in front of cameras their whole life, right?
Which is a lot different from when it was. Funny story. When I first came back here as a teacher, Mr. Stewart ran a telecommunication class here at the high school, and one day there was a student who wanted to do a sports program, and obviously knew that I was very interested in sports, so he put the 2 of us together, and another coach, Tom Downey, who's still on staff with us, he joined us, and we had a little roundtable discussion, much like we're doing now, which you've kind of brought back, which is great. But you're right. I mean, you know, students today, the social media part of it, I mean, they live in front of the camera.
Right.
For me, I got a face for radio. I shouldn't be in front of the camera. So, but these guys,
two of us.
No. But these guys, they're naturals.
Yeah.
And they're 15 years old.
I know. The
but
confidence. Is amazing.
which is great because you always hear people, all they do is text and all that. But when you get down to it,
yep,
they can hold a conversation with you, and they can really articulate what they might be feeling at the time, after the game, before the game. Whatever it might be, which is really good, because again, that's a skill. Whether he or she, becomes a Division I athlete, whatever he or she has learned in high school, they can take that to wherever they're going to be down the line.
Yeah.
So I think that's important.
So I'll give you an easy one here. What can you say about the support that the town brings to the high school? The high school certainly brings entertainment.
Right.
On a Friday night, you see the lights on as you're driving down 139. Yep. But what can you say about whether it's the boosters, the parents, and the fans that come out, like the support that you get? In the business community as well. I should say,
well, and it's funny because this community is so supportive, not only of the schools, from the elementaries all the way through the middle school and high school, but certainly I think, you kind of said it, you've been here on a Friday night, when you see those lights go on at the football field. I remember in the mid-90s when we first got the lights, and it really was just an event, and people still talk about that now. But I think our community has from this building being built, our community has just rallied around our school district, and we're very fortunate in that regard. And I think that's something that is, people that work in the building, or people that live here in the community. I don't think it's something that we can lose sight of, because it's very important. That just having the input that we have from the community, and so many local businesses, so many too many to mention, have volunteered their time, volunteered their facilities for the benefit of for our student athletes, for our students. And you just unfortunately don't get that in every community, but we certainly get that here. But I think, and I know I'm biased. I think Marshfield is just a great community. I think of some of the local venues around here, whether it's eating establishments, the Boys and Girls Club across the street, or just some of the parks that they've redone, from Peter Ago to the skate park. It shows a very strong commitment and investment to the Marshfield community as a whole. And Marshfield High School, certainly in athletics, has benefited from that without question. Yeah,
the facility alone is a reflection of the commitment of the town.
It really is. I can't tell you how many times the phone rings during the course of the week, and they will ask someone on the other end. They'll say to me, I don't have a child in school, but I would love to attend the tennis match. I would love to attend the softball game. And they're calling you, we need tickets, or and I said, nope. I said, please come and join us. Kickoff's at 4 o'clock. Our first pitch is at 4 o'clock, and they'll start the match at 4. Right. So I think it's really it's really good. And I see a lot of the same faces, especially in the confined areas, like in basketball, we're in the gym, or out of the tennis courts, or in the softball and baseball diamonds. You see some of the same faces that have just come for years and years and years, which is great. And they don't have children on the teams. They just really are here to support the community, I think, and I think that's great. And I think, for us, I think it's very important that our teams get out, and I know a lot of them do, and do community service projects within the town, and I think that's so important. Because it's great for our students to see that, and it's also great for our community to understand, who the young men and women are in this building. Yep.
Thank you. That's a very good, thorough answer. I'm going to put you now at risk. Because we just gave you the easy one.
Well, right,
you're a coach, you're an athletic director. I think as an athletic director, you take in so many different sports, and you see a lot of different officiating. Right now, there's a real struggle, right? There's a shortage of officials for a number of reasons, right? Watching you as a baseball coach, I've watched you handle situations where something didn't go your way, and you've handled yourself naturally very balanced, even though I'm sure you were burning inside. But you handle yourself with a lot of poise in those situations.
Hopefully age and maturity has helped with that. If you saw me 20 years ago, you might say, boy, this guy's a nut, but thank you for saying that.
But it's interesting, I think, you get to see so many different types of officials and so many different types of competitions. Can you talk at all about, the quality of the officiating and, without putting yourself at risk?
Sure. You know what, first of all, I would say, go a step above with our officials. So we have assigners. It doesn't matter whether it's basketball, football, hockey, all the sports. For all our varsity and sub-varsity sports, we have assigners. Those men and women do an amazing job because they are, I know you said it, they are so shorthanded. And there are days that we'll get emails early in the morning or phone calls and say, we have 112 games to cover today, and we only have officials for 88. So, can you help us? And, help us by moving games around and everything, so like that. In the heat of the moment, I get it. You all as a coach, you always want the best for your teams and for your student athletes. And like I said, you can get caught up in the minute. But those men and women who are working those games, whether it's a freshman or a varsity game, they're doing the best that they can do. I do think we have so many more qualified officials than when we have people that are unqualified. We really do. I mean, there are great officials out there who work their tail off literally Monday through Sunday because they're needed. I was talking to an official last night at the hockey game, and I think yesterday was Wednesday. He starts his cycle on Sunday for whatever reason. He goes Sunday to Saturday, and he was telling me, so last night was Wednesday. That was game number 7 for him. Yeah. And he's 3 days into his cycle, and he's at game 7. So there's just an extreme shortage. But I think as coaches, we all have to, and as athletic directors as well, we have to understand that those men and women who are calling our games, officiating our games, they're doing the best job that they possibly can. They really literally have no skin in the battle because they're just going out there to be. I always think of it as a history teacher. It's due process. Fairness for everybody. Right. So, and that's how it has to be, you know what I mean? And there's some times that, I'll tell my guys too, like, hey, that pitch out there has been a strike for 5 innings. We really can't argue about that. Or, that foul call that they're calling under the basket, it's been that way for the last 3 quarters. Like, we need to adjust. And again, just like it is for any student athlete, like, dealing with officials is part of the learning process, and I think we all know here in the room we're going to get knocked down in our lives, and it's really not about getting knocked down; it's about getting back up. And so, a bad call can go our way, and it can change the worst part is if it changes the outcome of the game. Sure, everyone feels like they've been misrepresented, but at the same time, it makes us stronger. I was talking to Coach Fisher, our basketball coach, boys basketball coach, and he was telling me about his game the other day in Pembroke and everything like that. It was a hard-fought game right down to the final couple minutes, as you guys know, because you were live streaming this, you always do. But he was saying how, like, there's calls that come down to that game that the officials have to make. Right. Because that's what they're out there to do. But he and I were talking about. So what can we do as coaches to make sure that our team is not in that position where it comes down to one call? You know what I mean? And so that's a hard part. But again, I can't say enough about our officials. And I felt bad. There was recently a game. I forget what it was. It was a sub-varsity game. Must have been in the winter season. So I thanked the officials after the game was over. And he said to me, he said, geez, I just want to thank you. Mr. Battis, he goes, I've worked games in the fall and in the winter, and you're the first person that's thanked me for your time. And he goes, this is the first time I've been back in Marshfield. And I said, I guarantee if you come back to Marshfield again, I'm going to thank you again because I said, I do appreciate all the hard work that you do. And I'm sure people have thanked him along the way from the fall to the winter because I know my colleagues, I know our coaches, like they are thanking officials. But sometimes it does get lost at the heat of the moment. But, I always say, you got to take that moment to kind of decompress and say, okay, what can we take from this? What can we learn from this? You know what I mean? And so it's the greater good of everybody. We're all trying to get better. We're all trying to learn, and everybody has an integral role in that game. Whether it's the timekeeper, the official book person, the officials, the coaches, the players. Whether you played, 5 minutes of a basketball game as compared to someone who played, 30 minutes of a basketball game. Everybody has their role, and everyone has to do his or her best job that they can do. So it is a concern of mine. I would also tell you too, along with transportation and among many other things, is I am concerned that the lack of officials across the board. I don't care what season, what sport. We are perilously thin. And as I said, our assigners do an amazing job of making sure that our sub-varsity games and our varsity games are are manned.
Right.
You know, we have the officials there, and it's not easy. And I understand that. And I can't tell you how many officials will run from one game to go to another game. It's common. We had an official come to our game the other day who had just come from doing a sub-varsity game in Hingham and was coming back to Marshfield to do a varsity game, and again, because it was a numbers thing. And, you know, we needed that person to be on our court.
Right.
So
right.
I give them credit.
Well, it's I don't want to leave you on a heavy note, so you're a baseball guy, I think, at heart, or at least you are now, right? I think you're a man for all seasons. But
I really
you have to
am.
be now.
I feel bad, and my wife's a great lady, and I sometimes get lost in the fact that I am out nonstop, because I do love I do love watching the sports, and watching our high school athletes compete. To me, there's nothing better.
Yep.
And you said it too. We have such a strong backing from the community.
No doubt.
That, boy, it's, you know, when you go to our events, it's exciting.
So that's perfect. And what I was going to say is, first of all, thank you, Bill. This is really great.
I'm going to start I'm going to end where I started. And again, I can't thank you. I see Sean behind the camera, and Jonathan, and all the people that work here at MCTV. Like it, I can't tell you, from my own family and from so many people that I don't know that'll come up and say, "Boy, we watched MCTV last night, and we heard David on the radio." I was walking you up to your post a couple weeks ago, and a woman heard that it was you. She came out of the concession stand, wanted to introduce herself, wanted to meet you, because she just thought the world of you. And for David, for that one person that came out and did that, I'm telling you, I've heard that from 2 dozen easily. So I can't thank you guys all enough for all the work that you guys do.
Yep.
Again, we're very lucky.
Thank you.
To have you here.
And all I wanted to say in closing, first of all, thanks again, Bill. We really appreciate it. We will be back to do some mid-season reporting. We're right in the middle of the winter seasons, more or less. Starting to get late.
We're getting down to the three-quarter mark, which is incredible. Yeah.
So we'll get some folks back in here and talk about where we are in the season and the successes that we've had. If you haven't made it out here to see a game, no matter what sport it is, there's plenty to choose from. I'd encourage you to come out. It's always a great take, and I guarantee you're going to see Bill, no matter what happens. So.
I hope so, and I hope they introduce themselves to me, because it's just great to meet other people in our community as well too. So, and thank them for their support for us.
And he means it. So thank you for tuning in. David Snow signing off. Good night.